Okay, let's talk for a minute or two about bankruptcy myths. And the bankruptcy myths that are out there are just numerous. In the 23 years plus that I've been practicing, I've heard a dozen myths time and time and time again, and we're covering those in the written materials that are attached to the website here where you're watching the video. We're not going to cover all of those bankruptcy myths in video form, but I'm just going to touch on 2 or 3 things that I think are real important. Now, where do these bankruptcy myths come from? I have clients that will come into my office and they come in with some preconceived idea about what bankruptcy can do or won't do or will do or what the trustees will do or how the judges will rule. And a lot of times they get these ideas from well-meaning people that they speak with or websites that are inaccurate or other attorneys that they've spoken with perhaps that are less experienced. They'll get ideas from people who've already filed for bankruptcy before. They'll get ideas from their neighbors. They're talking with their friends or their family about financial situations, and they'll get some great advice from these folks. I think it's real important to recognize that although it's well-intended advice, it can have some catastrophic financial consequences if you act on that advice. So let's just touch on 2 or 3 things that are just really hot topics, and that is sometimes my clients will be told that it's better to transfer an asset away than to have it when they file for bankruptcy because the trustee could take it. Now, there are lots of rules that come into place with regard to fraudulent conveyances and preferential transfers, and you do not want to step into that type of a situation. I've had clients that have actually transferred away assets that were protectable, that were exempt assets that the trustee in bankruptcy couldn't take, or that a judgment creditor outside of bankruptcy would not be able to assert control over, but because their friend, their family member, their coworker, somebody told them they need to get that out of their name, or they just came up with the idea themselves because there's just certain natural things that we think about. The problem with that particular situation that I was mentioning is that a vehicle was transferred away that could have been protected. The fact that it was transferred away would put that actual asset in greater jeopardy than it would have been in before. Now, what other types of myths are out there? Sometimes clients come in with the perception or the ill-conceived conception that they'll never be eligible for credit again, and that's not true. If you file a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, there will be a bankruptcy reported on your credit report for the next 10 years, but that doesn't mean you're not eligible for credit. Usually, after 2-3 years after your discharge is entered, if you keep your finances current, if you keep your payments on your cars current, if you keep your rent or your mortgage current, you'll be able to qualify for not only lending or credit, but you'll also qualify for credit at market rates of interest. So it's real important to understand that a bankruptcy filing, rather than taking your ability of getting credit in the future away entirely, has the opposite effect in many cases. It starts the process of rebuilding your credit so that you're eligible for credit and at a market rate of interest. Another myth that my clients will come in with is that they've been told that if you file for bankruptcy, you'll lose all of your assets. Nothing could be further from the truth. Like we've discussed on other videos on this website, exempt assets are protected. Creditors can't take those assets because they're beyond the reach of the creditors. They're not subject to legal execution. Even assets that are not exemptable, they may not be taken or might not be taken because they are over encumbered. If you owe $10,000 on a car and it's only worth $6,000, trustee in bankruptcy is not going to take that car and liquidate it because the trustee would have to give all the proceeds to the secured creditor. They'll simply allow you to keep making the monthly payments on that if you're current. Now that brings up another myth, and a lot of times clients will come in and they'll think that if by filing for bankruptcy, then they're going to expose their home or their car. Bankruptcy will not make you lose your house or your car. If you're current on your mortgage, if you're current on the other obligations relative to the mortgage, like keeping taxes current or insurance on the property, and if you remain current on the mortgage loan, you're not going to lose your house unless you have more than $150,000 equity in that home. You're not going to lose your car if you're current on the car. And if you're current on all the other obligations under the contract like maintaining insurance. So if you are current on the car, remain current on the car, you're not going to lose that car in bankruptcy unless you have more than the exemptable amount of equity in the motor vehicle. Now, with regard to the house or the car, we can also protect cars and homes in bankruptcy if we file a Chapter 13 bankruptcy, which is a repayment plan. There's no exposure even on equity that exceeds the amount of the exemption amount. There's also not an exposure, if you're in a Chapter 13, for a home that you're behind on, or a car that you're behind on, or furniture that you're behind on to a secured creditor, because the Chapter 13 allows us to cure those arrears. It's real important that as you start making a plan going forward, that your plan is based on truths rather than myths. So please schedule an appointment as soon as possible to meet with me in my office so we can talk about the debt that you owe, the assets that you own, a timing issue, a strategic plan for making a plan of how you come out of this current financial struggle and having a fresh start in order to look to your new financial life and make some successful decisions and make some successes in moving forward for saving for retirement, for taking care of your needs, and for bringing to life your dreams. I'll look forward to seeing you in my office as soon as possible.